our second part of the webinar series, right? Our first part we had last Wednesday, which was the typical financial roadmap that families with special needs face from a 30,000-foot view. And we really highly covered, at a high level covered SSI, able accounts, SSDI, and special needs trust. The second and third webinar series, we're diving deep into the components we covered in part one, this one, Social Security, and the third webinar, which will be next week, Wednesday at the exact same time, will be a deep dive on able accounts and special needs trust, when to use them, how to use them most effectively. My colleague, Andrea, is going to be monitoring the chat. If you look at the chat now, you will see the first recording in it, as well as a 2024 resource guide, an annual limits resource guide. Great tool. We release that every year. Take a look at it. Everyone that's RSVP'd will also add to our newsletter so that you can see the latest laws, regulations, and considerations from a financial perspective for planning for your family. If you have any questions during the webinar, add it to the chat and we will be covering them at the end. So we will have a Q&A session at the end. Diving right in, we got so much material to cover. I want to start with who am I, right? My name is Rep Beal. I'll be your host. I'm a financial advisor for high net worth families, and I have a niche for families with special needs, particularly parents like many of you, to ensure that you have enough financial resources for your lifetime as well as your child's lifetime, utilizing the private and public resources available to you. And I think it's important to understand why I created this niche, why I'm doing this webinar series, and my heart behind it. My heart behind it comes from a family member, just like many of us. It comes from a personal experience. Jordan, this is my wife's twin. His name is Jordan. He unfortunately had a brain tumor at the age of 5, and just battling the cancer, the chemotherapy, the surgeries, as well as having additional benign brain tumor in later years and a stroke. It's just significantly impacted his growth and development, and he will need support for the rest of his life. And my mother-in-law had the biggest fear, right? Who's going to help care for Jordan after she is gone? What are the steps we need to take to plan for that? And my wife and I agreed to take on that role. As a financial advisor, as a financial planner, I thought I would be well suited to do that planning work. And I can tell you, I found out really quickly, this was a whole new ball game. I knew nothing about it. I knew how to plan for most families, but I did not know how to plan for our own. And this made me really uncomfortable, uneasy. And I started doing informational interviews with families like yourselves. I started looking into what other financial advisors are doing this, and it really opened my eyes. And one of the first things I realized is that only 6 out of 100 families with special needs have a coordinated, comprehensive, and communicated plan. And that 6% figure just broke my heart because I fell into that ballpark too. So I went back to school, per se. I had to solve it for my family, and I wanted to solve it for a lot of other families like mine. To the guys out there, I may be able to help you with your finances, but I won't be able to help you get out of the annual matching Christmas pajamas. I'm sorry. Yes, my family still has to do that too. Joking aside, this is something I have a lot of passion for, and so I'm grateful that you guys are on this webinar series so that you can be better prepared to make wise financial decisions for your family and you don't fall into that 6% statistic, right? And all I ask in return, share this information that you're learning with others. Let others know that I'm out there to help them, right? We want to make a change, and this is the community to be able to do it because we have the experience and we can help guide others like ourselves. So what are we going to cover today? Social Security, right? It's an enormous program with many different parts. We're going to walk through the various parts in a sequential manner to help you better understand the fundamentals of how the programs work, starting with the fundamentals of Social Security, right? What are the components of it? Welfare benefits, think SSI. Entitlement benefits, think retirement Social Security or SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance. And a crucial part, right? We don't want to look at Social Security in a vacuum. Where does Social Security fit in your plan? A huge consideration. Anyone that's been a part of a webinar or a seminar with me knows I like starting out with a few statistics. 1 in 5 Americans currently receive a Social Security benefit. In the US, that's over 60 million people. And of those 60 million people, 1 in 3 are disabled, dependents, or survivors. Excuse me. And 50% of all beneficiaries receive over half their income cash flow from Social Security. This makes it the most important economic security system in our country. And I say that and I give those statistics because many of you have heard and have read that it is unsustainable and that it's going to run out of money. Truth is, under its current glide path, it will. But, and this is key and what I want you to catch, it is too important to our country for the government to not make changes. We've had to make changes to the Social Security system in the past multiple times, and we'll have to make changes moving forward to fit our current environment. I am a wholehearted believer that the government will make changes because it's too important. It would be political suicide not to. So it will be a system that is there a long time. It may change slightly, look a little different. The rules will slightly change. We'll show you in later sections some areas that they've made adjustments in the past and where they'll likely make adjustments in the future. But I am a firm believer that it will be here for a very long time. Now, unfortunately, 2 out of 3, that's over 66% of individuals don't maximize their Social Security benefits. I personally believe this because there are a meager 567 ways to file for Social Security. Yes, you heard me correct. 567 ways to file for Social Security. It's large, it's complex. There are a lot of different programs, which means there are a lot of ways to miss out on opportunities available to you. It's why I also reiterate to not take this as personal advice, right? With so many different ways to claim and file for Social Security, there's no way I'm able to meet individual circumstances through this webinar, right? This is generic advice trying to teach you the fundamentals of how Social Security works so that you can make wise financial decisions for your family and take advantage of what's available to you. So, diving in at the highest level, there are 2 parts to Social Security. One is welfare benefits, or SSI, which is intended to supplement our most vulnerable with limited income and resources. This comes out of the general fund. This does not come out of the Social Security pension fund. Entitlement benefits come out of the Social Security pension fund, and it's intended to supplement income needs while in retirement. Entitlement benefits is what most of you are paying into through your taxes on every payroll, right? Every pay cycle. There are a few people that are not having to pay into that. My wife is one of them. She's a high school history teacher here in California, and high school history teachers here often do not pay into Social Security, but I am. And looking underneath the hood of the key differences between them, and we will dive deeper into them, right? Welfare benefits versus entitlement benefits. Welfare benefits are needs-based, where entitlement benefits are earnings-based, right? Your taxes. SSI, no work history required, where under entitlement benefits, work history is required by either you or another family member. SSI, very strict income and resource limits that have not been changed since the 1980s. More on that later. And entitlement benefits, there are no income and resource limits. SSI is strictly linked with Medicaid or Medi-Cal in California, whereas entitlement benefits are linked to Medicare. Starting off with SSI and looking underneath the hood. As we already said, it is needs-based, right? Who are the eligible recipients? Excuse me. Just so you know, I have a 1-year-old daughter. She goes to daycare. and she brings home lots of germs with her. And my wife and I often catch them, and so that is the cause of my cough. So excuse me with it. I'm doing the best I can. But who are the eligible recipients? It's for those age 65 or older, or those experiencing a disability, right? Again, think the most vulnerable with really limited income and resources, and there are no work history required, and you're automatically approved for Medicaid. What are the test requirements? What is the disability that they're looking at? Well, it's a condition that has lasted or expected to last 12 plus months. And for Social Security purposes, when they're looking at disabilities, they are not looking to see, is it Fragile X, or is it Down syndrome, is it autism, is it any other disabling condition that exists out there. What they're looking at is, what is your ability to work? That is the sole purpose of their definition. Are you able to work and earn substantial gainful activity? And that's the second bullet point. And for SSI purposes, if you are able to earn what they call a substantial gainful activity, which in 2024 is $1,550 net of impairment related work expenses per month, then it's likely you're not eligible for this. What are the resource limits? Again, this has not been updated since the 1980s. It needs to be updated. I wish it would be updated, but it hasn't been. If you have $2,000 and 1 penny or $2,001 in a bank account, you would not be eligible for SSI benefits that month. That does not mean you are never going to be eligible, but you're not eligible that month. And there are places to store excess savings. There are excluded resources. We covered that at a high level in the first webinar, and we'll be covering it at a deeper level in the third one. But it are things like ABLE accounts, special needs trust, a primary residence. So yes, you can own a primary residence or a primary vehicle. Those are excluded resources regardless of their value. When should you apply? Well, it depends. The two key factors, right? One, if you have children that are under 18 years old and you yourself have really limited income and resources, well, you may be eligible for SSI for your child. For others, where the parents' income and resources are above the thresholds, and you have a child who you're uncertain of their work capabilities, then I would say it's the month after turning 18, not the month they turn 18, but the month after they turn 18. And something I want to highlight that's important here, even if you think, hey, it's uncertain if my child is going to be able to hold a job or not, I recommend going and getting approved for SSI first and then applying for the job second. I don't hear me say don't go apply for jobs. I'm saying put it in the order. And the reason is, as an example, I have a client, their son was cleaning horse stalls and would get paid about $10 a week for cleaning horse stalls. Well, SSI saw that he could work, he can find employment, and so they denied him Social Security benefits. They had to go through 3 rounds of appeals. They had to get an attorney prior to being approved. Where if you would have applied first, got approved, and then found the job, it's just easier than having to go down the appeals process. What are the benefit amounts? If you are, the federal benefit amounts are $943 for 2024. That adjusts every year based on COLA. And there are states like California that have supplemental benefits. And in California, that's $1,183. Not near sufficient enough to, pay one's wages or rent and food. And so that's why we really need to find additional resources that are available. But it does help. Everything does help. What are frequently asked questions? Can my child work and remain eligible for SSI? The answer is yes. If someone ever tells you no, it's incorrect. And one thing I want to point out here is if you or your child can work and you can earn above substantial gainful activity, I recommend doing so, right? Because the benefits that you or your child are going to get from working just far exceed trying to hold within the government benefits, right? So please don't hold back family members or yourself because of this. But if it is a needed resource, you can still work and get SSI. And the way that the math pans out is for every $2 of earned income, you'll have $1 of SSI removed, right? So it's not a 1-for-1, but it's a 2-for-1 calculation. What is in-home support and maintenance? Well, SSI is designed for food and shelter specifically. And so if you are living in someone else's home rent-free and they're paying for your food, or if your child's living rent-free and you're paying for food and shelter, well, the government and Social Security says, well, they don't need as much. So they'll reduce benefits by 1/3. That is the max they can reduce benefits. And there is a way to get around this. Set up a rental agreement. If you set up a flat rental agreement of, say, $500, and that $500 does need to actually go from that Social Security bank or your child's bank account or your bank account to the homeowner, and then you can get the full benefits. And then what you do with that money, right, the rental income, well, one, you can use it to help supplement your household living expenses. Two, if you don't need the supplement, utilize things like ABLE accounts and special needs trust to be able to give it back to them. And that really leads into that third point. What do you do to protect excess cash buildup? We talked about briefly in webinar 1. We'll go deep into webinar 3. But utilize things like ABLE accounts and special needs trust. They're a great resource for excess cash buildup, and keep your resource limit below that $2,000 amount. That's finalizing the SSI component. You'll realize that understanding when to apply for SSI is fairly straightforward, right? The rules are fairly straightforward, but getting approved for it is really challenging. That's vastly different than the entitlement benefits, where entitlement benefits, it's easy to get approved, but it's really difficult to understand when to apply. And so we're going to spend a lot of time here moving forward showing you the fundamentals of how entitlement benefits work and how to utilize them with SSI benefits or welfare benefits for the family to maximize family Social Security benefits later into your life. So entitlement benefits, right? We covered some of this. Earnings based. Who are the eligible recipients? When you become retired or as you start aging, 62 to 70 is your window to start claiming Social Security benefits. Unless you are a widower, then it is 60 to 70. Or if you become disabled yourself and you are no longer able to earn above substantial gainful activity, then you would be eligible for SSDI, and your spouse and your child with disabilities may be eligible for spousal benefits and SSDI benefits based on your work record. And we will get into that here momentarily. Here, work history is really important, and they're going to look at your top income earnings over the last 35 years. Really important. And once you become eligible for entitlement benefits, right, you can either start collecting Medicare at age 65, or if you're on SSDI, it's 2 years after being on SSDI. Excuse me. So what are the test requirements? Just talk about some of this. Age 62 to 70. Excuse me. Have a personal disability or a child's disability. And if your child is going to be eligible for SSDI on your work record, then they have to have a disability onset prior to the age of 22. That's important, prior to the age of 22. So if your child unfortunately got in a car accident at age 23, they would not be eligible for this, but may be eligible for SSI or SSDI based on their own work record. When do you start collecting benefits? Well, it really depends, right? When should you apply? It's not a one-size-fits-all. There's so many different ways to claim. That's why I say this is not personal advice, but help you understand the foundation and the fundamentals to make wise financial decisions. And the most common considerations are your health and longevity. It's really important. I want you guys to hear this. See Social Security benefits like longevity insurance. What is longevity insurance? Well, your biggest risk is not dying before you run out of money or having too much money. Your biggest risk is living past your money or outliving your money, living too long, living to be 100, right? And this is a place that is guaranteed benefits for the rest of your life, and I'll show you how to maximize it momentarily. Understanding your personal financial situation, what are your other resources? What are your other income resources? Do you have a 401k, 403b, IRAs, trust accounts, rental income, work employment income? Really got to look at your personal situation, understand when is the best time to start claiming, as well as looking at family members who may be financially reliant on you. The sooner you apply may impact your spouse and other family members significantly, right? And we're going to go through this sequentially. So first, we're going to look at an individual and how to look at Social Security benefits for an individual. Then we'll look at a married couple, and then we'll look at a family experiencing disabilities, particularly if you have a child with disabilities. And in the Q&A section, I'll briefly go over like what my brother-in-law's situation is, where he is working, he is not on SSI, and how to consider SSI, SSDI. So looking at an individual, if you have not opened a My Social Security account already, I highly recommend doing so. Just pick a night and do it. I'm not going to judge you if you happen to pick a night where you pour yourself a bottle of wine. That's not something you want to do, but something you have to do, and wine may make it just a little easier to do so. Go behind a closed door room and remove all distractions. It will take about 15 to 30 minutes for you to create an account and download your statement. And when you do, your statement will look like this. And there are two sections I particularly want you to look at. The first section on the left, you'll see is your personal benefits available to you, right? And this is for those who are working. Available to you if you become disabled yourself and no longer able to perform above the substantial gainful activity level, which is $1,550 a month with some adjustments, but for simplicity purposes, $1,550 a month. Today, next year, right, that will continue to go up and change. But under this scenario, you'll see it's that $3,065 amount would be the SSDI benefits on this statement. If you download your statement, you would see what your benefits are. And then on the top right, those are the retirement benefits, right? And Social Security calculates that based on what's called your full retirement age, right? And the full retirement age has nothing to do with your actual retirement date. It's just a date that Social Security sets to calculate your benefits. So it's an internal figure and it's an internal verb, right? Or definition. And it's important to know how Social Security full retirement ages have been changing as people are living longer. And you'll also see how the numbers are laddering up as the start age changes. So under this scenario, right, if you were to start collecting at 62, the benefits would be $2,402 versus if you started collecting at 70, it would be $4,250, a significant difference. How to understand your full retirement age. This is important when looking at your statement. It depends on the year you were born, right? And earlier I mentioned that there were adjustments that had to be made in the past to make Social Security more sustainable. This is one of them, right? As people are living longer with medical breakthroughs, they've been delaying when people's full retirement age calculation starts. So if you were born in 1943, 1954, that full retirement age was 60. And everyone born between 1954 to 1960 had this ladder approach where they're moving it to age 67, and everyone after 1960, the full retirement age is 67. I do expect this to continue to be pushed out, and probably someday in the future it might be 68 or 69. But all calculations are predicated around that full retirement age number or age. And I have it highlighted here. And for all my examples, I'm going to assume that the full retirement age is 67. And you'll see at 67, it's 100%, right? Every year you start collecting Social Security prior to your full retirement age, there is a reduction to your benefits. If you start collecting at age 62, you'll get 70% of your full retirement age benefits. If you delay out to age 70, it's 124% of your full retirement age benefits. To bring this into perspective and how impactful that is, right? your benefits will be 43% higher at 67 than 62, or 70% higher at 70 than 62. Really impactful, right? And the biggest question that everyone always wants to ask, well, I'm started collecting at 62, that's 8 years ahead of 70. What's the break-even analysis? Well, it doesn't matter when you start to collect as an individual, right? We're looking at the individual, whether it be 62, 70, 70, or anything in between. The break-even analysis is between 78 and 82 years old. So looking at your health, looking at your financial resources, if you are someone that believes that you'll live beyond age 82, then it's highly likely that deferring Social Security will have a major impact into your later years, and it can grow into the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I believe more of us are going to be living longer past 82 because of the medical breakthroughs, right? We're able to sustain ourselves longer with the new medications that continue coming out. Now we're going to look at a married couple. Right? And looking back at our statements, I want you guys to try and find where the living family benefits are. And say yes or no whether you're able to find those living family benefits. Awesome. Ending that, you'll notice that it doesn't exist, right? There is a section that shows survivor benefits, and it's only partial survivor benefits, but your statement's not going to show your family living benefits on it, which is really unfortunate. And we're going to go through it so you understand it and you can make those wise financial decisions. Well, there are 3 types. One is spousal benefits, where your spouse may be eligible for benefits on their significant other's earnings. There are widow or widower benefits if your significant other passes away before you, right? And some of that information is on the statement, but not all of it. And then there's disabled adult child benefits for a child who had a disability onset prior to the age of 22 and never earned above the substantial gainful activity level, right? Because then they would start building SSDI in their own work record. Looking at spousal benefits, how does it work? Social Security was actually originally designed and built to protect spouses, particularly women. Men, 100 years ago were the primary workers. And if the husband passed away, the spouses or the wives were being left with nothing. And so they wanted to protect women. So it was created and designed for the spousal benefits. And spouses, you are either going to get the greater of your own benefit or up to 50% of your significant other's benefits, right? And how the math works out is, again, there's a laddered approach based on your full retirement age. And unlike your personal benefits, which continue growing, or the benefits grow all the way out to age 70, this one, the benefits stop at age 67. So there's no reason to wait beyond age 67 if your personal benefits are never going to be higher than your significant others. A few other key logistics to know. 1, you cannot collect spousal benefits until your significant other starts collecting first. The payout on spousal benefits are reduced each year prior to your full retirement age. That's the chart. And last, the benefits here, let's just say 50% versus 33% at age 62. That's not based on your significant other's age, but on your own personal age. So you want to say, 1 is my significant other claiming and collecting, and 2, what's my age? So even if your significant other is 70, but you're only 60, you can't start collecting yet until you get at least 62. And then the max benefits you can get on the spousal benefits is at age 67, not your significant other's age, but your personal age. Also, for spouses, if your significant other passes away, they would get the greater of their own benefits, or up to 100% of what your significant other was receiving. You don't get both. So for example, let's just say you were getting 1,000, your significant other was getting 2,000 when they passed away. you would then get the $2,000 for the remainder of life. That's why it's important to look at this as a combo package, because if both of you start collecting at 62, well, now you just capped your total benefits for both lifetimes. If one started collecting at 62, but the other started collecting at 70, well, if the one that waited till 70 passes away at 75, they significantly helped their spouse, right? Because they'll get that max Social Security benefit and that bump up to 100% of what they were getting. We're going to show 3 examples of this to really break it down, and I'm going to show you sequentially how when you start claiming significantly impacts the total benefits that could be available to you. And I'm going to explain this page. We're going to use Matt and Maggie as our example. On the left, you can see Matt and Maggie, their PIA stands for primary insurance amount, and that's the amount that they would be eligible for at their full retirement age or age 67. So Matt's full retirement age benefit would be $2,200, where Maggie's is $1,000. And if they were to start collecting at 62, both of them started collecting at 62, and they lived to be 90 years old, well, then Matt would receive $1,540 per month. That's 70% of that $2,200. And Maggie would get that 33% or the greater of that $2,200, or sorry, the greater of her own benefit, which is 70% of $1,000, right? Or up to 33% of Matt's, which is that $726. So that's how she'll get $726 per month. And doing so out to age 90, they would have earned cumulatively $788,568. Well, look at the difference if, Matt started collecting at 62, but Maggie decided to wait, right? To maximize her spousal benefits, she waited till 67 and got that full 50% of Matt's benefits of $1,100. Well, just waiting that 5 years, you got an extra $75,000 cumulatively over your lifetime, up to $852,000. Pretty big difference, right? It adds up. And now if both delay and Maggie decided to start collecting her own benefits at 67, and then Matt waited till 70, right? So Matt gets the max 124% of his full retirement age amount. Maggie got 100% of her 1,000, and then got the bump up at age 70 to the spousal benefits. Look, an extra $150,000 or $220,000 or $212,000 over the entire lifetime just by delaying. So when you start collecting has a really big impact. Look at these strategies, right? And say, what is the longevity in our family? And also, what are the other financial resources we have in our family to be able to supplement? Because often I hear people say, well, I want to start collecting as soon as possible. Well, that's great, but it's likely that your work employment earnings are higher than your Social Security benefits, so you may be hampering yourself by collecting early in multiple facets. 1, you're not collecting your greater work employment, and 2, you're reducing your lifetime benefits on Social Security. So we got to look at these to see your entire financial picture and what fits best for you and your family. Again, but you got to look at the health and longevity as well. Now let's look at a family who has a child with special needs. And under this scenario, we're specifically looking at, right, a child who was never able to earn above substantial gainful activity and being eligible for SSDI on the parent's work record. And this is called a disabled adult child benefits. Sometimes you'll hear it called DAC or DAC benefits. What are the benefit amounts? Well, when you retire and you start collecting Social Security, it's up to 50% of your full retirement age. And this is important to catch. It's not 50% of the amount you're collecting. So if you start collecting at age 62 and reduce your benefits 70%, your child under disabled adult child benefits would still get 50% of your full retirement age amount, not your 62 amount. And if you wait till 70, they're not getting 50% of your 70 amount, right? Age 70 amount. They're getting 50% of that full retirement age amount. That's the same thing if you as a parent become disabled prior to age 62, they would get 50%. And on your call home date, that's the CHD, your call home date, they would get bumped up to 75% of your benefits. Really impactful, often higher than the SSI benefits. In situations where it's not higher than the SSI benefits, well, SSDI reduces SSI 1-for-1, so you would get both of those, right? Something also important to know, for a child to be eligible for this, they must never have been able to earn above substantial gainful activity. There are a few instances under like trial to work period and a few other regulation and rules where that is not the case, right? They're very specific, and I don't have time to go over it here. But in general, if your child was never able to earn above substantial gainful activity or has been on SSI since 18, they're highly likely going to be eligible for this. And also important to know, they could lose these SSDI benefits or DAC benefits if they marry someone else who is not also on the benefit. So if they marry someone or you marry someone who is not also receiving SSDI benefits on their parents' work record, you'll lose it. So that's important to know. And it's also important to know that, under these frequently asked questions, can my child work and remain eligible for SSDI? The answer is yes, just like SSI. You can work, still be eligible. Remember, for SSI benefits, for every $2 of earned income reduces SSI $1, I got great news. Under disabled adult child benefits, there's no reduction. It's an all or none scenario. So say your child's earning or you are earning $1,000 a month, well, you'll get that full SSDI benefit on top of that. No reduction. Really valuable. What about the in-home support and maintenance? That's no longer a thing either. It's no longer a thing for SSI. It's not a thing for Medicaid, right? Those strict income and resource limits become a whole different factor. Something that is important to know, right? And a common question is, will I or my child lose Medi-Cal or Medicaid by bumping over to SSDI benefits because the SSDI benefits are higher than SSI and I'm no longer receiving SSI? The answer is no. If, keyword if, the only reason why you would no longer be eligible for Medicaid is because you simply went from SSI to SSDI, then the government says you're still eligible for Medicaid. Now, Medicaid, right, is still an income and resource restrictive tool and system. And California has some unique rules where resources are no longer part of the calculation. It is the only state where that is the case. In all other states, it holds that $2,000 resource limit and also tight income limits. California, it still holds tight income limits, and it will look at all savings, earnings, investable income. It looks at the whole boat. Let's look at it from a family perspective, how to maximize benefits and how to incorporate it with spouses, married couple and a child who may be eligible for disabled adult child benefits. In this scenario, we have Sean, Sharon, and Shane, the 3 S's, right? And Sean's full retirement age benefit is $3,000, Sharon's is $2,500, and Shane's, right, he doesn't have a work history in this example. And so we put that at 0. We'll all started collecting at age 62, right? Sean would get 70% of his full retirement age benefits. Sharon would get 70% of hers as well. And then Shane would get 50% of the greater of his 2 parents. So in this scenario, it's Sean's, right? If Sharon's was higher than Sean's at any point, then Shane would be eligible for the greater of the 2. And notice it's 50% of that full retirement age amount. And in Sean's case was that $3,000 number. And if the parents were to live till age 85, well then on their call home date, Shane would get bumped up to 75% of the greater of the 2, and in this case would be $2,250. I want you to notice that I left the numbers really simple. This does not include inflation, right, or COLA adjustments. In the real world, there will be inflation and COLA adjustments, and those COLA adjustments become really large and impactful long term. But I wanted to keep it simple for you guys to see the numbers sequentially. And look at the family benefits, right? The family lifetime benefits, $1.945 million. Wow, it's a lot. But how does it impact if you guys as the parents we're going to defer Social Security benefits, right? Because the equation is a little different. We're going to assume that Sharon and Shane collect at 62, right? And it's really Sharon's age 62. We don't know Shane's. I didn't put his age here. And Sean delays till age 70. Well, Sean's going to get the 124%, right? Because he waited till his latest age available, and that's $3,720. A lot of money, right? Sharon started collecting at 62 and got 70%. And then Shane is going to get the 50% of Sharon's benefits because Sharon is the only one that started collecting, right? Shane cannot collect on Sean's at this time because Shane cannot collect on Sean until Sean starts collecting himself. That's why it's on Sharon. So it's 50% of Sharon's full retirement age amount. And then the day that Sean applies and claims for Social Security benefits, Shane's benefits increased to the greater of the two. In this case, it's Sean. So that's why you saw it bump up at age 70. And then again, on the call home date, gets those benefits as well, or it bumps up to 75%. And this strategy alone is over $2 million. Right? And if the parents lived to be 90, they would be even greater than that $2 million. In our third example, right, let's assume that both Sean and Sharon both wait till age 70 to maximize their benefits. Well, we've got to remember, Shane in this scenario is still receiving SSI benefits, right? It's not an all or none. So we got to look at the whole package, right? And if Shane was working, well, then his work income would also be higher than this 943, and the 943 is specifically the federal benefit amount. So Shane would continue collecting SSI benefits until the first one of the parents started claiming Social Security, and in this scenario, we assumed it was age 70, right? And if they waited till age 70, total benefits would almost get up to $3 million. So even in this scenario, right, where you're looking at the total family and SSDI through disabled adult child benefits, delaying can be really impactful to the family financial picture. Waiting can still help, particularly if you have longevity in the family, right? So look at it holistically, right? And we want to understand where Social Security fits into our plan. Don't look at it under one umbrella and say, hey, how do I just simply maximize Social Security? Well, we have to also think, how am I going to maximize work? How am I going to maximize savings? How do I maximize Social Security and all the other benefits available to me so that we have enough financial resources for your lifetime as the parent, as well as enough financial resources or be able to pass on enough financial resources to your child if your child is not able to earn sufficient wages for themselves. Now, for those like my brother-in-law who is working, right? My brother-in-law works at the grocery store. You're saying, well, what about SSDI for him if something comes up, right? My brother-in-law had a stroke. That prevented him from being able to work for some time. And what he did is, because he is paying into the Social Security system, he is eligible for entitlement benefits on himself. So if he has another traumatic injury or disabling condition occur in the future, he would be eligible for both SSI and SSDI, right? That is his safety net. But he is no longer eligible for SSDI under the disabled adult child benefits under his parents' record, right? So we have to look at his situation a little differently. But for us and our family, what we really loved is Jordan can work. He enjoys working. It puts him out there in the community, and the entire community knows him. And it's really just a beautiful thing. And I know there are a lot of questions that are likely out there because we covered this really quickly. We only had about an hour. And that's why it's important to look at your situation individually. But I hope that now you have the foundation and understanding principles of how Social Security works. Even though there are 567 ways to claim Social Security benefits, you have the foundation and the principles to be able to look at it intelligently to make a wiser financial decision for your family and when may be the best time to start filing for benefits. So Andrea, I'd like you to take the floor for some Q&A time.
Sure, we had a couple questions come in. The first one says, if you start collecting your Social Security retirement early at age 63, can Social Security penalize your monthly amount due to receiving IHSS as an in-home provider?
That is a great question. I would actually need to look at that for IHSS. Your earned income would be impacted by Social Security. So prior to your full retirement age. So in our example, we use 67 as full retirement age. So from 62 to 66, for earned income, your earned income is gonna reduce your Social Security benefits, right? So there's no doubling up on the system, and it doesn't make sense to double up. After your full retirement age, that is no longer a thing. I don't have the answer on IHSS at the top of my head, but I'll look that up. That's a great question.
Okay. And then in regard to the collection strategy slides, somebody wanted to know if the numbers are adjusted for inflation.
No. So that is a very good question. I kept the numbers really simple and did not adjust it for inflation. Inflation is crucial to look at, and I'm going to tell you why. The COLA adjustments or the inflation adjustments are based on the amount you are receiving. So I'm going to give you an example. If you would receive $2,000 at age 70 versus $1,000 at age 62, I know that's not the correct math, but this is for example purposes, and there's a 5% COLA adjustment. Well, 5% COLA adjustment at $1,000 is $50. 5% COLA adjustment at $2,000 is $100. That compounds and continues over and over and over again until your call home date. So inflation adjustments will significantly impact the benefits coming to you as you get later in life. Another reason why delaying can be significantly important. Good question.
Okay. Another question says, if my child receives disabled adult child benefits, which only covers half her monthly expenses, and I pay for everything above that amount, is that a problem? Do I need to hide that fact?
Not if they're fully on SSDI benefits. If they're on SSI, right, welfare benefits, I wouldn't say hide it. Put a rental agreement together. It could be a flat rate rental agreement so that you no longer have that 1/3 ISM reduction. But if they are on SSDI, that's no longer a factor. It's an all or none.
Okay. If your child receives SSDI from a deceased father and you, as the mom, receive it as their caregiver, does an outside job or income affect your ability to receive it?
So I don't know which person you're talking about from the outside job perspective. And for the spouse, it would be under the widow or widower benefits, right? Versus your child, it's going to be the disabled adult child benefits. For the widower, it's going to depend. It's going to really look at your full retirement age. You know, if you are working and receiving widower benefits prior to your full retirement age, it will be reduced, right? But after your full retirement age, probably 67 or close to it, it won't be reduced. For your child who is on disabled adult child benefits, it's different, right? Widower benefits is not an all or none prior to 67. After 67, right, you get it all, and income is no longer a factor. Disabled adult child benefits, it is an all or none. So you can work and still get all of those SSDI benefits, but as soon as you're able to work, your child's able to work above the substantial gainful activity level, which is 1,550 today, right? There are some nuances to that, but that's kind of the hard number, the most simple number. If they're below that, earning $1,000, then you'll still get the full amount of the SSDI benefits. If they're earning above it, they won't get any of it, right? And they'll start actually paying into their own entitlement benefits like my brother-in-law.
Okay. Somebody would like to know, is there a max cap on the total of DAC and spousal benefits?
Yes. So there are times when this gets really difficult. There's something called the family maximum benefit. And what the family maximum benefit looks at is there is a max amount of benefits able to be paid out under one person's earnings record. So if you have, I've had someone come to my office who had 2 disabled adult children as well as a spouse, and the spouse did not work because of caring for their children. And for them, they're really going to be impacted by the family maximum benefit. They will not get that full 50% spousal, full 50% disabled adult child benefits for both of them. There is a complex formula for it, but what I do want you to know about it is that family maximum benefit percentage changes if you start collecting at 62 versus 70 or 67. And that's a scenario where the longer you delay, the higher the full family, or the more the full family is going to be able to get. And it's even more impactful to delay. I know you may be like, oh man, I don't want to work. But when you look at the long-term impact to the family, it might be crucial.
And the last question we have says, how would you go about determining how long the money will last? For example, how can we go about figuring out if we as the parents can enjoy some of our savings now and also provide for our child?
It's a great question. I'll go back one slide. Really have to look at the entire picture, right? What do you have in 401ks, pensions, personal savings, IRAs, annuities? Do you have an inheritance coming in? What's your health like? What's your family health history and longevity? It's not a one size fits all. So really you do have to look at the whole picture to understand that. And also look at things like life insurance. You know, if you do not have sufficient income or resources to pass on to your child, could life insurance help that? If not, what about government benefits? Are there government benefits that can provide those resources? So really have to look at it holistically and at everyone's situation uniquely.
One last one came in real quick that you could probably answer regarding ex-spousal benefits, and would that come into play with the total of the family max?
Good question. There are ex-spousal benefits. There is still a max anyone can earn on one person's work record. And there are a lot of unique rules to ex-spousal benefits, such as the length of time you were married to them, you know, are you remarried or not, and other considerations like that. So you got to look at that, you know, really intently and uniquely to say what is available to you.
Great. I think that's all the questions we had for today.
Awesome. I know we covered an enormous amount of material. We will leave the recording for you, and we will send that out in a couple of days. Feel free to share that with anyone that you think they would find it valuable. I'll also be available for questions as needed. Thanks, everyone.